Well, I'm very pleased to introduce y'all to my next guest in this retail series. I got Ruel Joyner here, and he is the owner of the lifestyle furniture brand 24E Design Company. Ruel took over the family business, which was established back in 1986, and has proceeded to turn that retail store into the coolest store in Savannah with his eclectic blend of Southern tradition and modern expression, both design and the brands and lines that they source. He's designed projects for former presidents, celebrities, and many homeowners who love to showcase their lifestyle. Thanks for joining the program, Ruel. How are you doing today?
Hey, Philip, I really appreciate you having me on, man. I'm pumped.
I know. I'm feeling the energy already. So one thing that people will notice if they've shopped with you, if they've patronized your brand, when you get to know 24E, certain things will stick out, including these different kind of like old school furniture pieces that are built out of different kinds of aircraft parts. So for those who have Google accessible while you're listening to this, you'll notice there's like some really cool industrial looking seating that he's made out of it, coffee tables, dining tables, dome lamps and stuff. So how did you even get into like, hey, I'm going to make furniture made out of aircraft parts?
Well, my father was in Strategic Air Command. I was military. I am a military brat, and looking at planes and looking up to him, and what is the romance of speed and travel, and everything military to me is just cool. And it's all overbuilt, over designed, because at the end of the day, it's got to work, and it's got to work under the harshest conditions, and it's got to work when you need it the most. So it was just a natural thing to take some of those shapes and build it into furniture pieces. And it's not exactly rocket science, and it isn't the hardest thing to do. It's just you got to have the imagination and the will to want to do it, and also the OCD to want to do it right. And so it was sort of self-taught, and designed my first chair, like actually on a flight to Las Vegas, just sitting there staring at a cowling. Did it on a bar napkin. In fact, I still got the bar napkin somewhere, and it worked out really well. And it helped to make the brand sticky. And I don't think we like necessarily are the trendsetter in everything that we do, but we are just so curious, and we like to do cool stuff with cool people. And and I really have I get bored, and so I'm always looking for that next thing, what to do, what's cool. And really too, I'm just so driven by the people that we work with. It's a lot of fun getting to know these people, and and making their ideas come to life, and then our own. In fact, that's I'm on location right now. We're working on a project here on 59th Street, which is totally been out of our what we normally do, and it was just something cool that came about, and I was like, shit, let's do it. So here we are.
That kind of takes me into what I was going to then kind of ask you on a larger scale, which is 24E has developed this reputation as a brand as having premium pieces that you would be proud to have in your home. But at the same time, it doesn't try to be, not to pick on the other brands who take this route, but pretentious or unapproachable or too posh. It very much goes for eclectic, cool, make yourself at home kind of vibe. So maybe you could tell just the story overall of 24E, the company, and then also kind of how your brand flavor came about and the way people know you and in your company.
Yeah, man, thanks for pointing that out, because I feel like, we as a brand, and especially people that know us and our folks, I mean, they know we're as approachable as it gets. I mean, there's, my father's always taught me to respect everyone until they teach you different. And, and although, we got nice stuff, and there is, some things that are pretty luxurious, but it's nothing like pretentious. It's not, we know where we come from, and we stay there. And, and so, there's I'm so happy you pointed that out, and that's important to me. Is remembering your roots and being able to walk down that street, and and people know that you're real, and that and you show them respect, and they show you respect. It's I'm from Tybee Island, Georgia, man, I don't forget it. And I went to Myers Middle School, Johnson High School. There's nothing more proud of that than me in Savannah, Chatham County. I'm just Savannah boy, and that's the way it's been from us working on Broughton Street to today being on 59th Street. So it's just having that respect and that realness, and that is very important to me and our business and my family and our company culture.
Mm-hmm. So you ended up taking over the reins of the company, like I said, it being a family business. How did you go from where you started off when you were handed the keys to where you'd come from that point, getting to do these cool design projects, even partnerships with like Savannah College of Art and Design, working with some of these bigger named clients, and kind of how you started to make yourself known in the industry and in the community once you were given those keys?
Well, I don't know that my father got sick, and when he got sick, I ended up coming back from college and working in the business. He was doing rent to own. I told him I certainly didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something a little different. Mm-hmm. And he was humbled by his situation, and he was like, whatever you want to do, just take care of your mama. Mm-hmm. And so, it sort of morphed from that. It wasn't as smooth and easy as all that, because, he got better, and he got to feeling better. And then, but this has been a very long road. My father, had to get a liver transplant. And when I came home from school, he finally, when we got him the liver transplant, it took over a year to get it. He was given another 17 years. And, so there was a little bit of button heads with, the vision as to what the business was going to be. But after he saw that it would work out, he was fine with it. So there's a little bit of family politics with that. But my wife, who is, has always been a big force in the business, and was right next to me when we were, after we got married, and actually even before we got married and we took over the business, we started changing it. And so, I've always been into architecture, space, pieces, cool brands, things like that. And so it was just sort of a natural progression. We started doing some work with Inc. magazine, and that sort of got us out there a little bit more. And, and thanks to Savannah Economic Development Authority, who had asked me to do something for the governor at Inc., that got us on Inc.'s radar. And then we started, doing the Inc. 500, which we did Chicago and San Francisco, and ended up working with them and meeting wonderful imaginative people like Ping Fu from Geomagic, to doing stuff for American Express, MSNBC Your Business, and here we are. We survived 07 and 08, and now have made it through a pandemic. We just sold our real estate on 24 East Broughton Street this past December. So that has been probably the largest jump that we've made, because, we're no longer tied to the retail space anymore. We're now on the internet. And most of all, all of this to me has been a quest for freedom. And I'm no longer tied to a building anymore. And I'm doing what I want, who I want, when I want, and where I want it. So It's not been easy so far, because, we've taken a totally different business model and pushed it into what we're doing now, which is online. We're working more on our social media presence. I'm out here making videos today with a project that we're working on. And so, it's exciting about what's coming down the road. It's a little bit more work with doing the social media aspect of it, the video aspect of it, which I'm not used to. I'm much more used to just, doing the work and then, selling it, and then, or working on the project, moving on. But now, since we don't have that retail front, it's a lot more about doing the social media, letting people see what we're doing from day to day. And it's that next step, that next progression, and something I've never, not done. And but it is the future, and it gives me a little bit more freedom to do things on my terms, and that's what I'm very happy about. In order to provide for my family and continue doing what we love to do.
So that takes me back to something you mentioned is like y'all got through the 0708 recession, but I think you would also probably say that this pandemic, the 2020, even a lot of 2021 was a different animal altogether. And for those of y'all who don't know, 24E Design, like you mentioned, 24 East Broughton Street in downtown Savannah, a high traffic, high tourist area. Obviously, when we have the shutdowns at the beginning of 2020, and that was just a funky year for everybody, but a lot of retailers especially, it really just turned the playbook upside down and threw y'all a whole lot of loops that I'm sure that no one was anticipating. What was the pandemic like for y'all, especially in 2020? And then what was some of that journey from getting to all that stuff outside of y'all's control to coming out of the other side?
First of all, I think, at least for a lot of people, it showed that control is just an illusion. You can barely control what color socks you put on in the morning. And planning is, I think it was Mike Tyson that says everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's right. Mike's right. And so, what I learned through 07 and 08 was that when you got punched in the face, it was how you dealt with it. And I mean, be honest with you, when the pandemic hit, there's a lot of people that just got in this marathon that, I've been in since 07 and 08. And when you're running every day, when there's another race, it's just another race and it's just another day. So didn't panic, looked for opportunities and looked for other ways to weather it and continue to work. But, you got to remember to not ball up into roll up into a ball and get into the corner and start crying, because you're not beat until you quit.
Yep.
And that's just another lesson that we got from the pandemic. And to be quite honest with you, it really opened my eyes to, how much time I was spending on stuff that was not necessary, and how much attention that I was giving to things that were just like time vampires and, and succubuses. Just, sucking all the energy and life out of things I were doing that just was not a great return on investment. And it was, to be honest with you, one of the reasons I got rid of the retail space was I was able to get back on my time to liquidate some of those assets that we've had held up over there. And though we loved it, and I mean, it was one of the hardest decisions I ever made in my life, but selling that place was, I think it was the next step with what we needed to, in order to really fulfill what, I wanted to do and what the next step was for the business. And all of it is just about freedom. It's part of the aspect of the brand. It's about, about that American spirit of freedom. And so we were sort of putting our money where our mouth is, and I made the big jump and we sold it.
So something that you actually have been asked quite a bit on when it comes to that whole pandemic journey. And like you said, it really kind of forced you kind of look at what was worth your time, what wasn't worth your time, what was most important when it comes to freedom. That led you to transition your entire business to a different model. But something, we've all been dealing with the entire time, at least, people who are impacted by that industries like retail, is supply chain challenges. So you've actually been interviewed many times actually in national media to talk about the challenges that small businesses are faced with when it comes to supply chain hindrances. I've talked to a lot of people. They just heard supply chain, and they just get to like, well, I don't even really know what that means. From someone who's walked that walk and you've seen the effects of the supply chain challenges during the pandemic era, what can you kind of share with us about, what is the supply chain issue? How do they impact y'all, and how you've dealt with it within limited control?
I think that the supply chain challenge that we are all still living in has showed how much this globe is connected. I mean, you know, we're talking about decoupling from Russia, decoupling from China. You know, it really showed the average person how connected we are,
Mm-hmm.
and two, how important that you know, that going down to truck drivers and the dock workers down at Georgia Ports Authority, how important they are.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has, you know, this role to play in it, and it trickles back into everything within the products that we use, to the products that we even manufacture, to the vegetables and the food that we eat.
Right.
I mean, we're all so interlinked, and you know, not only was it a huge ordeal for smaller businesses, but it was a big ordeal for your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, luckily we here in the Southeast fared better than most because of Georgia ports. But
Mm-hmm.
you can see across the nation how people were affected by supply chain issues, and you know, if you weren't getting those certain components, or you wasn't you know, getting certain products in order to build, you know, it was, get back to the car industry. You
Mm-hmm.
had cars that were not being built because they did not have the chips in order,
Yep.
you know, to complete that product. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't you were having issues with getting sofas um, to boat seats to whatever, because the foam that was being manufactured was at a loss. You're looking at now what's going on with the latex industry because of, you know, there's not enough latex from needing these exam gloves to tires to. It shows how interconnected we are across this
Yep.
globe,
Yep.
and also, you know, how much of a strategic issue this is for our country, national
Yep.
security. And
Yep.
so, you know, 95% of our medicines are made in China.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's it's not acceptable. And
Yep.
so, you know, I think that it's made the average person, and you know, and other people too that just were not paying attention, know how interconnected we are and how serious this is. And you know, I be honest with you, I think a lot of people saw that this could have just been the opening salvo to what could be, you know, huge issue if we don't start moving on that today.
Yep. You know, I think you're right. It's the word chain is important in supply chain, but I think that, like you said, people underestimated how long of a chain that is and how global of a chain that is. And when one link in the chain breaks, it impacts everything, which then impacts everything else to which is connected. And you know, and uh, to your point, I mean, during the pandemic, we just completely shut down so many things simultaneously. And then we as consumers, we kind of think it's like magic. And of course, we had all this extra money in our pockets thinking that, oh, well, now that the lockdowns are done, now everything's back to hunky dory, which now analysts are telling us that it will be well into 2023 before we have any kind of semblance of supply chain normalcy, so to speak. And that assumes that we don't have any other significant roadblocks that throw chinks in the chain. So I don't know if you wanted to follow up on that, but I know that you've been a big voice for small businesses in addressing what the reality of the situation is. That doesn't necessarily answer the how we fix it, but I know you've spoken a lot to what's the insider on this problem.
You know, I think even saying that this will be fixed in 2023 is, you know, I think if anything, it showed us that we really have to be vertically integrated with so many things. There needs to be everything that we need as a country needs to be manufactured here in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Doesn't that, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
think you could mix the margin on the cost of things by having
Mm-hmm.
you know, lower cost goods still made overseas, but it is anything that we need here, you need to have built here as well. You
Yep.
know, I mean, and of course, this isn't, you know, going back to even furniture, which is nothing mission essential, but
Mm-hmm.
it proves a point. We had, you know, one of our companies, American Leather, which you'd figure there would be no issues. You know, we were over 6 months, still are, on getting some of our recliners and motion furniture because they do not make the motion pieces. They do not make the mechanisms themselves. They have to get that outsourced and then brought here. You know, that one component is
Yep.
holding all the rest of that American manufactured piece.
Yep.
And you know, and so it's showing us as a country and as, even when we are voting to voice our concerns to our elected officials or leadership period on how important it is that, we don't get over the barrel on certain products that we need, especially when it comes to medicine, especially when it comes to PPE, especially when it comes to woven materials that, there's not too many people that are building those materials. And, we have to have some of that in the U.S. So we're not looking to someone that may be upset with us or we may be bad with, depending on them for that product. That's just stupid.
Yep. No, you're right. You're right. I think it's shown the vulnerability within the system when this whole pandemic. So to that point, in terms of the global or the big scale challenges that have been facing retail, I kind of look at it like, from what I've been seeing is obviously staffing for a lot of retailers has been a challenge. For others and for everybody, it's inflation, right? The cost of everything that goes into making your business do what it does. Inflation. I think the average consumer, for example, has had over $5,000 increased cost to get the exact same product, year over year. Then you got the supply chain thing, which we really touched on. The bigger businesses and big retailers like Amazon have done very, very well compared to small and mid-sized retailers. You got e-commerce demands and, which you're undergoing right now in terms of how you deliver your product. A lot of different things going on. What do you think was the biggest one for 24E Design? And then how did you go about starting to pivot to address that big macro concern?
That's a great question. I think the largest macro concern I saw was the shifting landscape of retail, period. I've been working, trying to figure out how to scale this business. What do we do? And I just took a step back and I took a look at, it's easy to get mad at Amazon or some big business. At the end of the day, we're buying this shit. It's me and you that are clicking.
Yeah.
And so, I said, hey, what do I need to do in order to prepare myself and my family for what's to come? And at the end of the day, too, I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not going to be changing the world. But, oh, my God, I love watching that guy. I took a step back and I saw all the pads that are developing out on I-16, everything that's coming that's I-95. I know that 6 months worth of all the U.S. capacity of steel has been allocated to Amazon in order to build warehouses. Those are big indicators.
Yeah.
And so then I sat back and I said to myself, hey, do I want to sit here and slug this out and grind this out on Main Street, USA, and, and then limit myself with the amount of time that I have with my family, or do I want to get smarter? And so I got smarter and I started looking at how I could drill back from my cost perspective. And do I have it all figured out? No. But, I've started to cut back and I've started to look at what I can invest in, and know, what exactly is something that can shield me a little bit from this inflation. So, I'm starting to look at different things to invest my time in, to invest my money in. And I'm working toward it. I knew this stuff is not rocket science either. And I'm no Thomas Sowell. You print more money. What does that do? It devalues the money and increases inflation. So, we seem to be printing it like there is no tomorrow, like I've never seen in my lifetime. I know that you haven't. And so, you got to start preparing yourself and your family for that. And while you're doing that too, figure out ways to make ends meet and keep saying your piece. I think the one thing that's going to save America is us being able to be free and keep speaking. What, me and you may not agree on the same politics. We may not have the same views, but you know what? I should be able to listen to you and not get all angry and bent out of shape by what your views are.
Yep.
And I find that in that way, if I keep that attitude and I keep that mindset and I'm hanging around those people that are able to keep, intelligent conversations going, I'm going to be okay. Yep. And you know what, no matter what the media does or what someone else does, I know that one thing I can control is my attitude and my behavior. And that's what I'm trying to teach my kids, my family, my friends, and keep putting that out there. You know what? And I'm going to say what the hell I want to say, when I say it, how I want to say it. And if you don't like it, you can turn it. And I'm not looking to incense anybody or whatever, but you have that freedom. And you know what? I want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to drive you in the dark. I want to hear what you have to say. I may not agree with it, but you and I should be able to have that conversation, be adults about it, be civil, and and be able to walk away from there exchanging ideas. And I think that is what makes this country great. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what's going to prevail. That's what's going to see us, this entrepreneurial spirit, these people that just will not stop. That's what's made this country great.
No, what I'm hearing from this conversation is kind of almost like the entrepreneur's mentality of what should be the focus and what kind of the whole pandemic era has taught business leaders like you is what's most important. There's things you can't control. You can't control Amazon doing what it does. You can't control, how much government how much money the government prints. You can't control when there's a global pandemic. But what you can control is your attitude. You can control what you emphasize. So in the case of Ruel Joyner, it's freedom in the way you operate your business, freedom in the way that you make certain commitments on the business side, which then have ramification on the personal side. Freedom to kind of just choose your own path, blaze your own trail, and just know that, it's about what you most value. It's about what's important to you, in this case, freedom, and then being able to have that opportunity to have good discussions with people, learn from people, which then, of course, can impact you positively everywhere, including the way you run your business, right?
That's it, man. You just nailed it. In fact, I want to join your fan club. That's it. That's awesome. And, and it's okay. I make so many mistakes. It's ridiculous. And I'm still learning, and I do not have this figured out. I have no map, but you know what? I'm going to show up, I'm going to suit up, and I'm going to put out. And one day, when I'm dead, I want my kids to say, hey, you know what? At least my dad was real. Yeah. And he worked hard, and he loved me. And that's what I care about, my family, my kids, and just people to say, hey, you know what? God didn't always have it figured out, but he showed up, suited up, and put out. And that's it. So, and if that's it, they can put that on my headstone, check.
That's right. Mission accomplished. So wrapping it home, this is the last question. For the person listening to this right now, they own, an up-and-coming, shop around the corner retail space, or, they own a business that's been out there for years and years and years. They're trying to grow. They're dealing with the same challenges or similar challenges that you've been dealing with, and you've been in business a long time. What's your biggest advice for that person listening right now who runs that small to mid-sized retail brand?
Get on Shopify. Get on Shopify, start understanding that, that website may not be making you all the money in the world that it's supposed to be. And you know what? You may not be able to hire everybody that you need to be able to scale it into that. But Shopify at least gives you, it'll get you organized. It'll get you on that platform, and it'll get you ready to where, you can begin to differentiate yourself, and you can make yourself bulletproof. But I think that's probably the most valuable thing that I could say is get on Shopify. And if you're a maker or any of that, get on Fair, get on Etsy, start using Shopify, start getting out there to where you can make your megaphone larger without all the overhead. And, it's not easy. I wish I'd had more of that mindset earlier on in the game when I was, there's a couple of companies, I will not name their names, but I remember they were small companies at the time, and I'd go in their store and all their people would be buried like in a computer. Their customer service was just ass. And I'd walk out of there a little disappointed, but I was like, you know what? There's no way they're going to be in business in 5-10 years. And I was so wrong. They had their head buried in the internet when I did not. And although it seems like, that is just such a large mountain to climb, it's not. It's easy. You can't get overwhelmed by it. I think Shopify is that first thing that the small to medium-sized business can start getting involved in. And, those little bitty things on Shopify can be huge in the future.
Yeah.
And that's probably a whole nother podcast. But
Oh yeah.
but that would probably be my big advice
Yeah.
to makers, small business. Check out Shopify, check
Mm-hmm.
out Fair,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I mean. Also, man, really, especially if you got small kids and
Mm-hmm.
you're in this space, this
Mm-hmm.
time flies, man.
Yep.
I before you know it, they're grown. So
Yep. Well, I've seen a lot of businesses who kind of tried to get on the Shopify bandwagon or some of these major commerce platforms for retailers, like during the pandemic, because they realized, oh crap, now when I don't have tons of foot traffic coming in the door to run businesses all the way I always have, a lot of businesses are now finding success on these commerce platforms that can combine in one system the in-store with the online. You can have that one kind of seamless integrated system where you can have your data. It can help you push out like logistics. So I think that's, and tell me if I'm wrong, it's you want like an ecosystem that can kind of handle all the operations and sales across all the different ways you deliver your service or product. And that way you as the retail owner, then you can focus on other things because you don't have 15, 16 different disjointed systems.
There's no other platform out there that compares to Shopify with, for at least from our vantage point, that could help sew all those things together from marketing to, the intake to the outflow.
Yep. And fulfillment, the whole thing.
No doubt. And not to mention, we're not even scratching on the surface of like how Fair integrates with it and how, as a maker, they don't, with Fair, you don't have to even go to markets anymore. You can, sell to a bazillion people like me or a bazillion people like themselves that, it's the friction point of e-commerce evaporated with COVID. And when your parents are now shopping on Amazon and not thinking anything about it, or think about this, people are buying houses and cars and whatever
sight unseen. Yep.
They're clicking. The friction point is gone. And that's when I was like, man, this bricks and mortar thing is and there is a place for bricks and mortar, but at some point the return on investment on bricks and mortar in a lot of ways, the diminishing returns have really increased, and I think that it's going to be really interesting seeing what happens to retail in the next 3 to 5 years. And I think that people need to start getting ready for that. And I think Shopify is a way to be able to help a lot of smaller businesses like myself.
No, thank you. That was beautiful. I fully agree with you, Ruel. So we had a big personality on here that has also a big brand that he gets to show a part of himself. 24E Design Co. Ruel Joyner. For people who want to learn more about the story, for people who want to shop, for people who want to connect with you, where can they go after this episode and go learn more about you and 24E?
You can go to our website, which is 24estyle.com, or we're on Instagram at 24estyle, and then my personal Instagram, which is RuelJoyner. Or, man, just call my cell phone. I get so bored. Call me, 912-659-4064. And like I said, we're approachable.
Awesome. Yep. That's Ruel Joyner, the owner of 24E Design Company, hashtag 24E Style. You can shop all of this cool stuff at 24estyle.com. Also, he does design work for clients when he's doing some more custom stuff. So that was awesome, Ruel. Thank you for giving us a tour of your perspective on retail. Have a great rest of the day.
Hey, thank you, man. Go Braves.
That's right. Go Braves.